I was telling my staff just a few moments ago, before they arranged this opportunity of interviewing a gentleman in front of me to get started. If a guy's late, you handle it. He's too big for me to put in place. Rosie Grier is a very big man. 300?
Yeah, I'm close to that now. I'm on a diet. I lost a few pounds, and so I'm on an ultra slim fast. So it's coming off.
When you played pro football, how heavy?
287.
287.
Yes.
That's big.
Yeah, it was big in those days, not now. The guys are a lot bigger today. Number of them, not all of them, but a number of guys are playing at 300 plus pounds.
I suppose I'm like most people. I never can remember who the other three of the fearsome foursome were of the L.A. Rams.
Merlin Olsen.
Yeah.
Deacon Jones and Lamar Lundy.
Yeah.
Usually people remember Merlin and Deacon, but then they don't remember Lamar. So usually I said Lamar Lundy.
Nobody ever gives you much lip, do they?
Well, I'm an easygoing guy. I mean, I don't provoke it, and I don't expect it. Mm-hmm. And if I did, I'd just walk away.
As big as you are, you'd walk away.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my dad told me when I was little, he said, trouble is easy to get into and hard to get out of. So I just avoid it.
You do a lot of work with the inner city, and you are in circumstances where you could get in a lot of trouble, I'm sure. Before we get into some of the more recent things that you're doing, I'd like people to have a more general idea of Rosie Grier. For those who do not know, you have quite a resume in terms of your background in professional football. All-Pro 4 times, 5 World Championship games, the New York Giants, the L.A. Rams. You were a football player's football player. Do you look back on it now and feel that it was something that prepared you for what you do today, or it was just a time in your life to do what you wanted to do?
It taught me a great lesson. It taught me how to win. I hear oftentimes people saying that I'm a self-made woman, I'm a self-made man. And I said there's no such thing. Everyone needs someone else in order to win. And what I learned with the New York Giants is I learned that it takes a team of guys that will say we'll put aside our individual statistics and do what's right for the team, do what's good for the team. Mm-hmm. And I saw a group of guys from all over the country, blacks, whites, and all kind of guys coming together and meshing and just working together as a team, encouraging one another, standing together, and we developed a cohesiveness that was hard to replace because we learned to love one another. Because when I started saying that, the guys used to be bugged. They said, Rosie, don't you go around telling people we love one another. I don't love you. I like you. You know, they didn't like that. But, you know, I kept on saying it. And now today, you hear guys saying that we love one another. That's why we win. It means that they're not quick to jump on a guy that makes a mistake, but they encourage that guy to do right, to work hard, and to be a part of a team.
But you didn't love the guy on the other side of the line. You were there to beat his brains in.
Well, actually, I mean, it wasn't to beat his brains in, but to play hard. I mean, you gave him a good shot, but you did it legally. I always tried to play the game. Whenever I play any kind of game, to play the game honestly. Because to me, that's why the rules are there, to make the game work, to make the game a sport. When people cheat on the rules, then that make the game is not what it's supposed to be. And so I don't like that. I like when guys play according to the rules. Now I know that there are guys that go outside the rules, and then you have to decide what to do about it as a team and as a league. Because what happens when a guy is doing something outside of the rules of the game, then it destroys the game, the integrity of the game.
You could have gone on to be a used car dealer. A lot of football players have done that. You could have gone on to be an insurance salesman, executive. A lot of them have done that. You could have lent your name to a restaurant. A lot of them have done that. You didn't do any of that. Did you get involved in helping disadvantaged youth because you had enough money that you didn't need to do anything else, and so therefore you had no entrepreneurial adventures to get involved in? Is that why you decided, well, gee, I got plenty of money, I'll just go help kids?
No, as a matter of fact, I had very little money. The reason I watched some men, first I watched Martin Luther King, so a man who had an idea, a dream for his country, and he went out and he fought for that. And I was with Bobby Kennedy when he was assassinated, and I saw this guy standing up rich, powerful, but still committed his life to do something that would make us a better country. And after seeing that, I decided that football was something that I should give up now and go on with another part of life, because there was a serious side that there had to be other people that would take up that torch and run with it. I didn't by any means imagine myself to be on the level of a Kennedy or a King, but just a citizen of this country that loved it and wanted to be the best it can be. And I saw an area of need. I saw an area where there were young kids that were shooting one another, had no faith in anything and themselves or the people around them. And they needed someone to encourage them. And so I decided that I'd spend part of my time out working with the young people and to try to help these kids realize that they had great potential. And it wasn't up to the people around them to make sure that potential was developed, but it was up to them themselves. And if they would only hear me because I was an athlete or an actor or whatever, then I would have served somewhat to try to make my country better. Because I have a feeling, and I know that most people would agree, we need all of our people in our country doing the best they can, because it's important.
Mm-hmm. Giant Step is what I'm talking about, and the Are You Committed program. For people who know nothing about it, which is the majority of people listening to us, tell us a few things.
Well, excuse me. I started with Giant Step when I became friend with President Carter. And he enabled me to carry on my work by granting grants to my organization. We built some houses for senior citizens, and we started some training programs for kids. But in the process of time, my life changed in that I became a Christian. I realized that it wasn't so much the money that was spent that enables a community to change or people to change, but that person needed to have another awareness that he had, there's a God or there's a higher power. Mm-hmm. And he needed to know that. And so when I became a Christian, I began to realize that there were restrictions upon governmental funds. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go into the private sector. And so I started Are You Committed to be able to minister as well as to train and to teach kids positive values. So I started Are You Committed and just to make sure I would be able to teach a spiritual side and ask the public to help me fund the work that I was doing. So that's why the two organizations. And so, but it was, both were started just to help people get going again in their life. I always say that many times in our lives, we find people that are broken down on a highway, and we ask ourselves, what can I do to help them get going again? I remember listening to Dr. Martin Luther King. He was saying something that he used the parable of the Good Samaritan, how this man that was lying down on the street, and it came the Levite and came the priest, and both of them said to themselves, they said, well, this guy could be a trap for me. If I go to help him, he could be a highway robber, and he might just lure me over there so he can rob me. And they both crossed on the other side, and they said, if I help this guy, what's going to happen to me? Mm-hmm. And along came the Good Samaritan, and he said, when he saw the guy, he went over to him, he picked him up, took him to the hotel, and had him fed, and told him if he needed any other help, give it to him, and I'll pay you the rest when I come back. So this man said, what will happen to that guy if I don't help him? And so it gave me an analogy about my own life. I could go off and pursue things for myself alone, but what's going to happen to those kids in those communities who don't want to hear anyone, maybe a guy like myself who have a reputation, that they might at least give a chance to talk to them. And that's what I made that evaluation and decided that that was more important, that I pursue helping these young people first.
What do you do with these kids?
Well, what I do, I talk to them about who they are, about their responsibilities, not just in terms of staying out of trouble, but their contribution that they can make.
There's like a center where they come to and meet?
Yeah, I do a lot of work with World Impact and also have my own organization, and that I've moved into the World Impact office. I'm on the board of directors of World Impact. So through World Impact now I'm able to do much more than I was able to do with my own organization, because they have staff and they have centers in Wichita, St. Louis, Chester, Pennsylvania, Newark, New Jersey, Fresno, and San Diego, as well as Los Angeles. So we're able to reach more kids, and what happened is that we have missionaries that live right in the inner city. We have people from overseas, white and other ethnic groups, that have come here and say, I want to live right in the communities and help make these communities better. And so when I met Dr. Keith Phillips, I began to see a man that's doing the same thing that I'm doing, and rather than to duplicate, I joined.
You talk to the kids about esteem, the importance of the kind of values that you've learned, I'm sure, playing football, et cetera, and so on. Are there stages that you try to take these kids through developmentally to restore them to being productive citizens?
Yeah, well, the key is, first of all, you got to meet them. You got to talk to them. And you have to gain their trust. And the way I met these kids, sometimes I meet them when they're in trouble. I've hired lawyers for them. I've visited them in jail. I've been to the hospitals. I've been to the prisons. And I've talked to their families and so forth. And basically, I just try to be there for them. And they know how to reach me. And so they call me, and I'll call them. I go to the schools. I go to the various events that I can find kids at, and just be around them, just to let them know that I'm there. I'm not always there in trying to do anything, just be there, just to see and observe and to talk to them when the occasion arises. But I'm not forced. I'm just around. I try to be in the community. I go to the restaurants, and I go on the ball fields, and I stand in the park. I go to the schools, and I'm all over the place, just to let the kids see me around, to let them get used to me. And occasionally they come talk to me, or I go to some of their meetings and so forth. And so that's how I get for them to know me and to trust me.
In addition to the nationally syndicated broadcast that we do, we have an ancillary organization we call the Compassion Connection. And it is a networking organization helping organizations like you are part of, and part of the key to it is a data computer bank that we have with a national number where people can call and find help for themselves or someone else and get cross-reference through the computer bank to, as we say, find help for anyone, anywhere, at any time. And it's primarily youth-oriented, and there are 7 areas that we've targeted, including issues as diverse as Satanism and suicide and drug abuse and so on. One aspect of this Compassion Connection is an emphasis we've placed on helping people involved in crime and gangs. Now, what I want to ask you is this. Out of all the areas of concern that we've targeted, we seem to get the least concerned about the gang crime problem. That bothers me a lot, because I'm so fearful that in the majority of the religious community, though over 50% of our audience is not religious, there still seems to be a perception that that is either an urban and or a black Hispanic problem. What's going to take marauding gangs running through suburbia, burning down homes to get the attention of the WASP evangelical community of America? I mean, when are they going to wake up? I'm a little frustrated that they can't see the terrible problem in our inner cities that we're reaping. Do you find that same type of white ghetto mentality, that they don't want anything to do with the inner city problems and so on? How do you break through that? How do you get to the attention of that larger mainstream community out there? We've got to do something about this.
Well, I've been very frustrated myself because this is a major problem, and it's not just a black problem; it's our problem, and our Spanish problem. It's a problem now that's permeating our society. These gang kids are spreading all over the country. I know that in Denver, Colorado, for instance, a few years back there were just about 100 gang members, and today there's maybe close to 2,000 in San Diego and all over the country. I'm getting phone calls where they are having shootings and gang activities going on, and basically it's that people seem to think that they're going to go away. They are not going to go away unless there is a concerted effort on the part of many people to meet the needs of these kids. These are kids that are crying out, said, I need help. Someone help me with my problem. Help me to get my life going. I'm stuck out here. I don't know what to do. And they are fighting each other. They're turning on one another, and they are angry. And I find that out of school early, and they need someone to help them to reappraise where they are and to help them see how they can change. And I see kids that go to prison. They come out and they haven't learned anything in these prisons. They come out. They're back on society. They're just where they left. They're still not educated. They have no skills, and they have no way to earn a living. Mm-hmm. And they are not going to just sit there and not do anything. One thing I found out about kids that are in gangs is that if they get an opportunity to do something right, they do it right. If they don't have an opportunity, they make it another way, because they are not going to sit there and do nothing. And so if we would only open our hearts up and really reach out to these kids, I know that there are so many churches they have called missionary budgets, and they all got people all overseas and on every corner of the world, but the inner cities. That is one great missionary field, and this is in our own backyard. When you see a place like Washington, D.C. being the murder capital of the world, and we have churches on every corner practically, and where are the efforts being united to go there? I mean, it's not, I would hope that a lot of the white churches or suburban churches would come and say to a church that's in the community, can I help you minister to the...
Then they don't seem to be doing it, though.
They aren't doing it. And also, the churches that are in the community are not reaching out to the community around. I would suppose there are many churches. I know that Jack Hayford and the Christian Cathedral, Dr. Schuler helps me some, and Kenneth Copeland and Kenneth Hagin, and a lot of these ministries are helping in the work that I do. But you have to be able to reach out. You have to reach out to, it's a two-way street. I mean, we need to realize that as men of ambassadors, that it's imperative that we touch one another, that we help one another, that we encourage one another. And these are the things that are so necessary in order to meet the needs of these kids. I would say that if we can get jobs, have someone doing things with the young people, teaching them, showing them how to sign up for the various training programs, taking them, because a lot of times they don't have transportation, or they're afraid to go through certain turf areas because they're going to get beat up or shot. And so we need to figure out how we can help the plight of these kids. I mean, they're stuck in the gangs, they're stuck in the communities, they don't have any way out. And so
excuse me, I don't hear you saying these are bad kids. I hear you saying these are, in some cases, highly motivated kids. They just don't know what to do. They're stuck. They're not bad kids.
They have no moral concept. I mean, they're not all good. There's some kids that they're hardcore. There's some kids you're never going to reach, because these are hard. They have sold out to the criminal ranks. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these young people around them are not hardcore. These are wannabes. These are kids that are looking for fun, looking for excitement, looking for something to do. I remember I travel around in night times, with some gang units, and stand on the street corner, talk to these kids, and say, well, Rose, we have all these basketball courts, and we have no basketball and no nets. We have swimming pools and no water. We have all these facilities, but we have nothing, no way we can use them because they are closed up. There's no one there to give us the equipment and stuff like that, or there is no equipment. And so we don't have anything what do you want us to do? We stand on the street corners and kids from other communities come by and we get in fights or whatever. So, yeah, I'm saying that not all these kids are bad. And I would say a large percent of these kids could be turned around if there was concerted effort on the part of many people to minister to their needs.
Your message, just in brief, to the black church and to the white church, because we still live in very much of a religiously segregated country here, unfortunately. Yes. As a black, what is your message to the black church, and then what is your message to the white church to get this problem resolved?
I'd say to the black and the white church, reach out for one another, touch one another, talk to one another, share your calling, share your burdens, so that you can see how can we help you, how can we help one another. I'll say the white churches, they don't understand what's going on there, and the black churches thinking that the white churches don't care about them. In many instances, it's just a matter of lack of communication. I know there are other instances where there's deliberate, I don't want to know anything about you. There is racism going both ways, but we have a greater need here. We need to put aside, like as an athlete, it wasn't about being black or white or brown or whatever that made a winning team. It was we decided to work together to win. And that's the same thing I'm saying to the churches and saying to the members of the congregation. We need to put aside what color we are and realize God doesn't see us as colors. He sees us as his children. And we need to really begin to work together to meet some of the crying needs today that's in the inner cities, or people that are starving on the street, or homeless people. We need to reach out to touch these people. And if we do it together, we do not duplicate so much. I oftentimes I see where there's another organization starting up, we're going to minister to the needs of people. But there are so many good organizations out there that are crying out for help, that are crying out for additional resources, that if we would focus that resource, we would be able to do another great job. I know that I went overseas, for instance, with an organization called World Vision. And they are in so many countries, they have such a capacity to help. But I see a lot of other organizations coming up that do the very same thing. I say, let us focus in through World Vision. Let us focus with them. Say, okay, we have this additional resource and we like to see over here you know how to do it. So let us help you to do it better. But it seemed like we're all trying to create our own little empire. and actually, it reminded me a lot of the game kids themselves. This is my turf.
Is this a harder battle to fight than you ever fought on the football field there in a hot afternoon in the turf and the mud, and a 300-pound lineman opposite you determined to knock you on your butt right then and there? That's a well-defined enemy. You know who he is, and you know that when that ball snapped, I mean, you got a split second to determine who's got the upper hand. This sounds to me like a much more tedious struggle, this struggle to reach out to the heart and soul of this country and make it wake up.
Because you're dealing with a people's mind. They have these set concepts. They have these set thoughts. I was walking this morning, and I was walking with my sneakers and my jogging outfit, and I saw some ladies walking with sneakers on, and I walked up this one lady. She had on high heel shoes, and she had been walking a long ways. I said, "Oh boy," I said, "if you had on sneakers, I said you'd be able to be more efficient in your walk." She said, "Oh, I think that looks awful." So she's not going to wear those sneakers. She's going to wear these high heel shoes out there walking along this, And so it's the same thing in the minds of people to try to penetrate those preset notions about various things. Is hard to cut through. That's why we try to reach the hearts of men and women, not to, because you can't cut through their determined thoughts. You have to cut and reach their heart. That's what God's word does. It reaches the heart.
Rosie, you're not just a big dumb football player.
Well, I hope not. I hope I'm a 58-year-old guy who's lived a while and have some understanding about what's going on in my society.
Do you ever get frustrated that people look at you like this big dumb football player? You know, the kind of stereotype that we have, and maybe don't understand the heart, the soul, the mind that's underneath all of that?
Not really, because you see, I think one of the key areas is that it's imperative that we know who we are. I know who I am. I know what my visions are. I'm not quick to run off or fly off because someone called me a name or someone said certain things about me, because I already know who I am. And I know oftentimes I tell young people, you are not who people say you are. You are who you say you are. Say good things about yourself. Encourage yourself, because what people say will not mean one thing to you unless you start to believe what they're saying about you. That's why I tell these kids, that you read all this negative stuff about how bad you are and all the terrible things you've done, but you got to remember one thing, like for instance, if a lot of time we think about the inner city, people think, well, that's where all the drugs are coming from. That's this gang-infested area, and these people just don't care about what's happening and all that stuff. But you'll find that majority of the people out there really do care. You'll find that majority of these kids, they don't have the overseas connection that bring the drugs into the community. They don't have the ship. They don't have the planes. They don't have the banking connection that allowed the money to be laundered. So you tell me that there's not a big game. That's a big money game going on there, and there are a lot more people involved than we are observing or we are talking about.
You have a new book with Regal Books called Winning that is kind of a potpourri of testimonials of famous athletes that talk about their lessons in life and what has made them win, and it's really kind of a who's who. Oral Hershiser, most everybody would know, the late Pistol Pete Maravich, Meadowlark Lemon. You're in the book. Guy who's called my show a number of times, Garth Jacks, who's a good friend of this ministry, Tom Landry, A.C. Green with the Lakers, Reggie White. The theme of the book is basically that athletes are role models, and these people have found that in the midst of their struggles, their sins, and their imperfections, the missing piece is Jesus Christ. That seems to be a very simplistic, reducible way to look at all of this. Expound on that just a little bit more for me. We know Christ is ultimately the missing piece, those of us who have the biblical theological perspective, but in these individual cases, there surely must have been a number of ways in which they came to find that missing piece. They didn't all come on the same kind of road. What types of roads did these people traverse to find that missing piece?
This is the end of Side 1. Please turn the cassette over at this point for the continuation of the message on Side 2.
Well, I think, I hear people when they see things going on, they say, oh, what he needs is Jesus. Mm-hmm. What they don't know is how to get Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. How do they get him?
I mean, everyone think that, well, oh boy, once you get Jesus, that's it. Once you get Jesus, you still got a problem. Mm-hmm. Because what you have to do is you're just a baby. And it's going to take time to mature spiritually, to learn that there are these roadblocks out there and these traps out there in the world for you, and just because you come doesn't mean you're going to stay. You find that, I know that a lot of these athletes, and I take myself as another one, that when I thought that once I started making money, I became a famous person, that I was going to be so happy I could get all the attention that I needed, and I'm going to be so complete and so contented. But when I started to get some of these things that I desired, I found out that it wasn't satisfying. And
why not?
I don't know, because I got my car, I got a place to stay, I got clothing, I had access to all the super people and so forth, and it seemed like I had something to do every night. I had to go someplace. There was always someone calling me to go someplace, and they were always picking up the tabs and all that stuff. And after a while, there's an excitement, and after a while, you settle down. You run as far as you can run. You say, wait a minute, I'm tired, and I'm still not happy. It's only a momentary thing. There has to be something more important than that. I set out in causes. I set out working in the inner city with the kids, and I set out helping senior citizens. I was doing all these things because I thought that would make me happy. That was the answer. I was a good Baptist boy, you know, and that was part of my being a Christian, was I had to do these things because I was working my way to heaven. And so, but I was not really happy. I went through a number of divorces, and I just wasn't able to get along in a marriage. And so finally one day I came to the end of the line for me, that I began to really truly understand why people kill themselves when they have nothing to live for any longer. They don't have anyone that they can call, seemingly that would understand their problems. They had no one they could share their hearts with, because you always think, well, hey, everyone looking at me and they think that I am, here's this guy, Rosie Grier, and he don't need any help. I mean, what does he need help with? He's got money, he's famous, he can go to president, he can do all this. They had this assumption that I needed nothing, and I was calling out for help, and I was at the point of my life where I just popped into my mind, boy, you know, if you killed yourself, you wouldn't have to go through all this stuff. I mean, you'd be free, you know. And I thought, how could you think a thought like that? And I cried out in the only way I knew how to cry out. I cried out just saying the Lord's Prayer. And through that, a man came to my house and told me about the Bible, and the airline stewardess told me about a man who taught the Bible. And one day my young son and I started watching something on television. My young son said, Dad, let's go to church. I mean, that seemed so far away. I hadn't been to church in 20 years. And he said, well, Dad, I've never been to church. And there's a little 6-year-old kid telling you that, boy, and you realize that your mom and dad raised you in the church until you were 19, went off to college, and decided not to go anymore. And I thought, boy, well, I tried to talk him out of it. He wanted to go, so I took my son. And we went there one Sunday morning, and I heard that, you know, that if you've been hurting and crying out, didn't know where to turn, that Jesus was your answer. It didn't make sense. How could Jesus solve my problem of loneliness, my problem of emptiness, my problem of not being able to get along with my wife? How could he be that answer? But as I began to listen more and more and more, I came to the realization that there was not a problem with my wife. My problem was me, that I was not contented with who I am at the moment where I am. And that if I have that peace of mind to realize that I am loved, that I am a good person, I can do great things with the right kind of reason. And to be inspired by God is a great inspiration, because now your inspiration is because of love. You're reaching out to touch the lives of people because the love that's flowing out to want to see that person's life better. That Sunday morning, I made a decision that what I needed in my life was a relationship with my Creator, and Christ was the way. So that Sunday morning, I stood up and I made a profession of faith, and I decided to serve God. And my young son also made the same profession, and he and I began going back and forth to church and got us Bibles and began to study that Bible and began to learn what things were in the Bible. Know that you learn chapter Hebrews 6:13, you got to go chapter 6 and 13 first. In the New Testament, right? I mean, what a lesson that was to learn that. That was the Old Testament, New Testament, you know. But it was just really wonderful. Suddenly you find yourself reading the Bible, and all of a sudden you find yourself like you're walking in the pages that just reached out and pull you in it. And
then everything just became rosy after that.
No, absolutely not. My son, one Saturday night, my son said, Dad, let's take Mom. I said, oh my goodness, I don't want to take that woman no place. I don't like that child. And, I kept thinking that you stood before the judge, and he divided up the family property, gave her the inside of the house, and gave you the outside. you don't want to have that dude help. But my son said, well, come on, Dad. So we invited my ex-wife to go, and she went forward and invited Christ into her life. And we began to going to church together. And one day I saw her as a whole different person. And eventually we got back together after being divorced for 2 years. But I'm saying that it took a lot of years for all these things to take place. I mean, what happened was when I met Christ, I kind of came to the fork of the road where I made the right turn. I started facing in the right direction, walking on the right path, which means that I had to still walk, not really knowing where I was going, but knowing that I had help along the way, that there was someone walking beside me, there was someone leading me, there was someone teaching me, there was someone helping me, there was someone encouraging me, and realizing that though somewhere along the way it might be painful, but I was coming of age. I was breaking through all the hurt and all the pain and all the doubt and all the confusion. I was growing finally.
In your new book, Winning, you quote A.C. Green of the Lakers in there, saying that he hopes the day will come when athletes will be looked up to for their integrity and their honesty. How long is it going to take to get the Pete Rose syndrome behind us, and how long is it going to take to get this attitude behind us that those athletes, when they get to a certain point, are shoving white powder up their noses and cutting corners and shaving points and involved with criminal elements and gambling on games? And there is a very jaundiced, critical perception of professional athletes right now that these are people that, whether we like it or not, are role models, but we sure wish we had somebody better.
Well, I mean, athletes are no different than the regular public. Let's look at the things that happen on Wall Street. Let's look at the thing that's happened in church. Let's look at the thing that happened in Washington, D.C. We include the president. All the allegations. Everything that's sacred has been tested and tried. And so we have this total concept that the world is falling apart. But when you begin to realize that there is a stabilizing force within all of us, but we have to find that balance in our lives, and also we have to learn that we can't shape our lives by what others have done, those that we see visibly, but realize that there's one that's gone before us, that's the role model, that's Christ, and follow that example, and to follow his teachings about the kingdom that's coming. And the kingdom has come. And to follow the precept that the Bible writes and talks about, and that these are the real forces in our lives that we need to get hold of. And yet, we do turn our attention to these athletes. We do turn our attention to the presidents and the leaders of our country, or the businessmen, and we follow their examples because we are those kind of people. We follow those kinds of things. We want to be like them because we can see them, we can talk to them, we can read about them. But yet we have to still know who we are. Realize, of course, our children have to be taught good values, good sound values. And we, as the parents, are the true role models of our children. And we cannot turn now that responsibility over to R. Hershiser or Rosie Grier or Bob Larson or anyone else. We have got to be able to stand there and to show and talk to our kids and to teach them right values. And we learn them about those values from the Word of God. So we have some tremendous opportunities ahead of us. When I look at our society today, when I see all the things that are happening in our society, I see opportunities for all of us to win.
The obvious theme of your book that winning is winning in life. It's not winning on the court. It's not winning on the playing field. It's winning with who we are and what we are, not the feats and the accomplishments that we have. These athletes that you've talked to in the book, and these are, I assume, people that you've known for a very long time, a number of them, was there any common theme of a particular point where they sensed the frustration and failure? You talked a moment ago, you get the fame, the whatever, and so on, but is there a place, is there some kind of key point in most of these professional athletes' life when it started to come apart?
Yeah, I think it's when they came to the end of themselves. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds like, what do you mean by that? Well, they came to the point where all their intellectualism, all their physicalness, all those things that they could possibly do to solve that problem, there was no answer. They tried everything, they talked to everyone they could, they've done everything they could, but they had to totally release themselves of the responsibilities of handling the problem that they were in.
That's tough when you've got an ego that's been massaged for 10, 15, 20 years, that you're the greatest, you're the best, you can do this, you're Mr. All-American, whatever. That's tough for a guy who's been constantly feted by the media to suddenly admit that, hey, I don't care what the press release says, this is who I am as a real person when I look in the mirror at night.
Yeah, but you understand that eventually as an athlete, you realize that it is press, and you stop reading it. You want people to say good things about you, but you can't measure yourself by what they're writing about you. It has to be done on the field. It has to be done consistently out there. You know what it takes to get you ready to do what they say you can do. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So pretty soon, you realize that what they're writing is not necessarily you, and you have to know who you are yourself. And so I think eventually athletes come to realize that it's media hype, they're promoting whatever they're promoting, but really, when it comes down to playing in the game, it comes down to being a real person. It's imperative that you know what it is that makes you go. It takes hard work to perform consistently in any sport or doing what you do or doing anything else. You have to work at it. You don't just sit down one day and say, I'm going to do this, and all of a sudden it snaps and you're a big hit. There are rare occasions when that happens, but real success comes from preparation.
Did the athletes that you talk about in your book, and these are some of the most famous people in the sports world that you have in the book, did they really have a consciousness of the extent to which they were role models for young people? Did they understand that emotionally? I mean, did they really understand that what they said and what they did could be shaping some kid's life every day?
I think not all of them. I think some of them eventually, they grew to the point where they could stand it. You see, what happens oftentimes, we heap all these things upon these athletes. This guy just came out of high school or just come into college, and he's getting all this notoriety because he can dunk a basketball or pass it behind his back or throw a football 90 yards or win 109-2. And suddenly we heap all this accolades upon him, and we have all these great expectations on how he is to live with that. And he can't handle it because he's not mature enough yet. He thinks it's a additional weight on his shoulders, not realizing that he doesn't have to do anything about it. All he has to do is keep on doing what he's doing, you know. Mm-hmm. And if he does, then we, as we grow to know this person, we will now begin to see where he is, and kids begin to see where he is, and people begin to make their own decision about who this person is and whether I can trust him or not.
I was talking with O.J. Simpson a couple of weeks ago, and we were just kind of talking off the cuff, and I guess O.J. would not mind my mentioning it. We're talking about Carl Lewis and the renowned reputation he had for being gay. Then, all of a sudden, I pick up USA Today a couple of weeks or a few days after that. Now he's got some new book out, and he's saying, I am not gay, and I want to get this straight once and for all. This sort of thing is very shattering to the public at large. We wonder who these people are, what they're really made of. Our whole perception of professional athletes, with Navratilova and whether he is or isn't. Professional athletes are not today what they were when you were playing football, are they? Are they just reflecting society at large? I mean, what's going on?
Well, I think basically we are all part of society. I mean, this is society. They just happen to be in a highly visible area. I mean, that has nothing to do with the character makeup of that individual, what his own desires are in life.
But you understand, it's really frightening to think that one of the fearsome foursome might have, been a little...
They weren't. No, they weren't. And
but even the hint of that sort of thing, wouldn't that have sealed the doom of an athlete's future 20 years ago?
Yeah, it could have affected it, but not necessarily seal it, because a lot of people around you know who you are,
mm-hmm.
and so they understand that these things do happen, and so what you have to do is go on with your life. And I know that I remember I was reading where I think it was Abe Lincoln said that if I spend all my time trying to answer my critics, I'll never get anything done. So what I'm going to do is do the best I can, what I am, as long as I can. And if in the end everything turned out right, it was worth it. If in the end things turn out wrong, 100 angels saying I was right will make a difference.
What did these athletes in this book really want to say? Beyond just what's on the pages, what is the essence of winning in life that they wanted to communicate? We understand that the Christ is the missing piece, that they found this missing piece. What out of all of that is it that they want people to understand the lessons of their lives?
I think basically what they're saying, that I'm a person just like you are, with all the mistakes and all the frailties that you have, and all the human needs and desires that you have. I'm a person, and that's who I am, and I want you to know that that's who I am. I've gone through the same things you've gone through, and will go through. But to let you know that we can overcome, we can win in life, we can succeed in life, but it takes hard work and effort. I think I would say that was kind of capsulizing basically what we're trying to say, that these are human beings. They're no more or no less than anyone else.
What is winning? What truly is winning at life? How do we know when we've won?
Being able to face your responsibilities. Being able to take, when tests and trials come, to stand up and fight, to do the best you can, to call on those people that you need to help you to assist you in finding answers, not to be afraid or ashamed to turn to someone and say, I don't have the answer, can you help me? Could you tell me the right person to go to talk about this? I think basically that's what winning is all about, that it requires your input and your effort in order to do it.
Did Rosie Grier really do needlepoint, or was that some press agent's cute idea to balance out the image of this gentle giant?
I think I started out, I went to this needlepoint shop because I saw these ladies going in there. And I kind of was jiving around there and just with these ladies, telling them that they were doing it wrong, And so some of the kids in the needlepoint shop said, well, why don't you really learn how to do it? So I started doing it just to do it. I mean, I didn't really have any real reason to do it. I was just doing it. But as I kept doing it, I started designing some things and learning how to do something. I kind of enjoyed it. And one day they asked me to take some pictures with a lady, of a high society lady, and I went and took the pictures just to hang in the shop. It ended up on the New York Times in the society section. And then there was this book company started calling me for 2 years. Dude, you need to do a book with that. And so, but as it began to take shape, I began to see that men were stereotyped in so many ways. They said, well, if you're a man, you can't do this. People perceive you as being, that's a woman's thing. You can't do that. No. Men can't cry. They can't do all these things. So I began to see that if I continue to do that and let them use it as a fun thing or whatever, then it was okay, because of the fact that kids were saying that if Rosie Grier can lead one, I surely can play my violin without having, because they kept on with Rosie Grier. So it served a useful purpose over the years, and so it started out just as a guy going to check out women, and it turned out it served some purpose.
Somewhere right now there's a kid, maybe black or Hispanic, possibly white, maybe a recent immigrant. He's living on the edge of society. The kid is the product of a broken home. He's flirted with a drug scene. He doesn't feel he really belongs anywhere. And he doesn't want to become criminally involved in a gang. He doesn't want to get into that scene. But hey, his homeboys look like they might be real friends to him. He needs a friend. He needs to belong. He needs his life to fit in somewhere. And he's listening now, and he's heard what we're saying. He's saying, so, Rosie Grier, what are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell me that's going to make a difference in my life? Rosie Grier, you don't live where I live. You don't know the hell I've had at home. You don't know the aimlessness of my life. So what are you going to tell me, man? It's going to keep me from joining that gang.
Well, first of all, I just like to say that you're not alone where you are. And if you look around, there are probably some people in worse shape than you are. But I want to tell you this, that you are precious, you're valuable, you're unique, you're one of a kind. There's absolutely no one else in the world like you. Now I ask you, what are you going to do with it, with that which you have? There's a scripture in the Bible that says that a thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Your hopes and your dreams right now are sitting there on the edge, and you don't know what to do and where to turn. You can win, but it's going to take some effort on your part. You can't just sit there and cry over you spilled milk, because if you spill the milk, it's over. What you have to do is pick yourself up, talk to some people that you might trust. If you don't know anyone, go to a church somewhere, and because they are supposed to love you, and that's what they're supposed to do. They don't always do that. But go with the expectation, always when you go someplace seeking advice or some direction, expect the best of people. Don't always think that everyone is out to get you. There's some people out there that genuinely, really care about you. Salvation Army is a good place to go. To say to these people, I am hurting. I want someone to help me, to tell me what to do with my life or how to get going again. There are all these people out there to help you, and they want to help you. They're committed their life to help you. But you have to open yourself up. Say, I need help. I don't know all the answers. You're no different. I was at a place in my life where I cried out the same way. I didn't know where to turn. Some airline stewardess spoke up and said, Rosie, there's help for you. And she pointed me to a man who pointed me to Christ. And it changed my life, got my family back together. You're not in a hopeless situation. You're alive. And you can do something about yourself. But it's going to require a lot of effort on your part to get you started. You go and ask someone, and they'll help you, I'm sure. Salvation Army, some of these churches, missions, all these people are out there for you to help you and encourage you.
One more question for the black young person who's listening, who may feel real bitter about the racism that he has experienced in our society. And he says, Rosie, okay, so you were there with Martin Luther King Jr. But hey, Rosie, it was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, and hey, I still don't see the dream fulfilled yet. I live in the real world, and don't talk to me about dreaming a dream. To me, it's a nightmare. It's still here. I see the hate, the racism, the rejection everywhere I go. What do you say to that black young man or woman out there who is still trying to deal with that? And surely in your 58 years, you've dealt with plenty of racism. The dream still has not been fulfilled. What's he do?
Well, I'm sure that there are a lot of dreams that are unfulfilled, but it doesn't mean that you stop going in the race, that you stop running the race. You have a race before you to run, and you have life in you. You have all the hopes and dreams, and our government have made certain rules and regulations that certain things can happen to you. But it's going to require you to learn in school. It's going to require you to learn a skill or profession. It's going to require you to keep knocking on those doors, because there's a door that's going to swing open for you. And you have to be prepared. You have to learn. All the world is not against you. There might be some white person or some black person, some brown person, someone has hurt you. You have to learn to forgive also. You cannot carry bitterness in your heart and say, well, the world is against me, because the world is not against you. There might be some people that have blocked you in the past, and might be someone that will stop you in the future or try to. But it's you or the person. You're the one that's going to make it work. I can say this about the black community in particularly. The black community spends approximately $284 billion a year, and the money stays in that community approximately 4 hours. There is a wide open area of going into business, learning different trade, learning skills, taking what you've learned, go back in the community, start businesses, start new things, and you're going to be an inspiration to others. All it takes from you to say, I will do my best. If you do your best, you'll find I require two things. You would 100% in conduct, which is good conduct, 100% in effort, and you'll find that that's a winning combination. Because if you will give it the best shot with your best effort, you'll find that there will be a crack in the rock and you can go through. There isn't anything that's impossible. Your dreams are still out there, but you got to reach out and take them off the trees and take them. But you've got to work for it. No one's going to give it to you. There's a lot of other people out there struggling, trying to reach it. But you have a uniqueness. You have your youth. You have who you are as a person. You have that uniqueness. But it's going to require your effort.
That from a man who knelt by the dying body of Bobby Kennedy. That from a man who has had to learn to win in life through his own failures. And Rosie Grier, I thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you, Bob.
This is the end of the message. For further information regarding other topics available on cassette and in printed form, write Compassion Connection, Box 36C, Denver, Colorado, 80236.